What's up, friends and fam? My name is David Cola and I play the drums. Today is part 2 of all my gear. So today we're at my lockout and we're gonna talk about all of my drums, my cymbals, my mixer interface, my microphones, my lights, all of that stuff. All right, let's get into it. Alright, friends and fam, so this is it. This is my lockout. It is a 10 by 10 lockout. It's a 24-hour space that I can come into at any time I want and play drums as loud as I want. I never have to take anything out of here. I can just leave everything set up at all times and I can come in here literally whenever and sit down, record, grab all the footage, take it home and edit it up. It's basically like a storage unit, but just for musicians. It reminds me a lot of the Berkeley practice rooms as well, just because I have so many friends from Berkeley that I used to practice with down the hall that are actually in the same building I am that also still practice here and still record content and do stuff like that. And if you've watched my videos before, this is where I do all of my drum stuff. All my videos, everything I do is in this rehearsal space. First things first. The big thing on the list is my drum set. This is my Pearl Session Studio Classic kit. The other two toms are over here. It's a 22-inch kick, 10-inch tom, 12-inch tom, 16-inch tom, and it also comes with a 14 by 6 snare, which that's not it. It's actually packed away in that bag right there. Yeah, it's a matching blue kit, and this finish is absolutely gorgeous. Unfortunately, Pearl Session Studio Classic kit has been discontinued, but it has been taken over by the line, the Pearl Session Studio Select line. And if you're looking for a similar kit around the same price range, I feel like that is the best place to start. And like I said before, all of my gear can be found in my description. All right, so next on my list, let's talk about my snare drum. This is the Pearl Steel Shell Sensitone snare drum. It is a 14 by 5.5. I actually got this from my friend Eric Downs, who is selling it, and I am in love with it. It is amazing. Of course, we have the stock snare that comes with the Session Studio Classic, as well as a 14 by 5.5 snare that goes with my vintage Pearl drum set, and also a Ludwig Superphonic 14 by 5 that I believe is actually from 1965. And I also have a second drum set, which is my gigging drum set, which is a vintage Pearl like birch kit from like 1963 as well, which I think is sick. It's like a beautiful red sparkle like the snare drum, and it is absolutely gorgeous. It's a little beat up and has a little water damage, but it does a job for gigging and just sounds huge and so thick and just really has that vintage sound, and that's what I love about it, and that's why I love gigging with it. Also, as far as snare drums are concerned, I also have a Pearl M80 snare. It's a popcorn snare, and I usually use it if I'm ever like playing like cajon type stuff and very acoustic type stuff, and it comes in handy like literally perfectly for those kinds of settings. So one of my biggest questions I get all the time are, what are these sticks that I use? And these are it. It's the Vic Firth 5A barrels. I also use the 5B barrels. And if I can't get the barrel tips, then I'll just use regular 5As or 5Bs by Vic Firth. All right, moving on to one of my favorite categories. Let's talk about cymbals. These are my hi-hats. They are the K Custom Session 14-inch hi-hats. They're my favorite hi-hats. They're very crisp, they're very clean, and they're very washy as well when you really open them up. This is actually a new addition that I actually got this week, which is the K Cluster Crash 18-inch. This thing is beautiful. It's super thin, has cluster hammer marks in it, and it's just beautiful. It's like super buttery. It's like thunder butter. It's like really buttery and I love it. Right here we have my favorite ride currently and my main ride, which is the K Custom Special Dry Ride. It's 21 inches. I use it basically as a crash ride because it opens up super well, but it's not overbearing, which is what I love about it. Lots of stick definition, and it's just one of my favorite rides. I get a lot of questions about these hi-hats. I actually stole these from Andy Prado when he used to play Zildjian and stuff, but now he plays Peisty, so I've sort of taken them from him. But they are actually K 13-inch hi-hats, just regular K 13-inch hi-hats, and Andy actually had them modified with holes on the top and also holes on the bottom. So as you can see there, they're just regular K 13-inch hats with just a little modification to it. So these are my main cymbals right now because everything else I have is cracked, which sucks. It really sucks, and it sucks because I do play hard, but within Within about 2 years of playing a cymbal and like using it, and like a lot of the shows and type of stuff that I play is like very harsh and very rock heavy, and they just don't last no matter how good I take care of them. I just actually use my stuff, and I use them on a daily basis for years straight. So just like any other touring musician or working person that really uses their cymbals and uses their gears to the fullest each and every day, I go through cymbals and I go through equipment within a year to 2 years at a time. So here's all my other cymbals that are sort of on decommission right now because they're cracked and I don't want to use them because they sound different than what they used to. This is one of my favorite crashes ever. This is the K Dark Thin Crash 18-inch. This is my go-to crash, and whenever I think of a crash cymbal, I think of this cymbal. I also had to replace the bottom of my hi-hat. The bottom of my hi-hat cracked after like 6 years of just using it to its fullest, the K Custom Session bottom hi-hat, but I replaced that, so we're okay. Next on the list is also one of my favorite crashes, the Oriental Crash of Doom, which has a huge crack in it, which is very unfortunate. It sucks. After that, I actually had a keyholing problem with this. I have no idea why. Don't be mad at me, okay? But this is the K Custom Special Dry Crash 19-inch. That one I still use every once in a while just because there was a piece of metal that flew off from the inside, which sucks. And to be 100% honest, I've never tightened that cymbal down. I've never like allowed it to not move, but just like everything else, I just used my gear for years at a time. So it's unfortunate, I know, but I had to use it, and I had to use my gear, and I had to play at specific levels to get the job done. So I apologize. I'm sure all of you are there screaming at me right now, so I'm sorry. All right, this was another one of my favorites, which I actually cut out a crack out of, which is the Avitas 20-inch crash ride that I actually got from Casey Cooper. And then this is my crash, which isn't broken actually, which is an A Custom 20-inch, just regular crash. So yeah, the cymbals that are usable still are the A Custom 20-inch crash, the 19-inch K Custom Special Dry, even though it has a little keyholing in it, which sucks. But everything else on my kit is still perfectly fine, and I use that for all my videos currently. Also, I don't know if I mentioned before, but the drum sets, the Pearl Session Studio Classic, was gifted to me by Casey Cooper, which is a whole nother story, which I have an old video about that you can go back on my channel and look up. Oh yeah, to keep my butt nice and comfy, I have a rockin' sock. It's a hydraulic rockin' sock, and it's one of my favorite seats. A lot of people don't like it, but I love it because it's super comfy. Okay, going over to another item I get a lot of questions about. I got this a couple years ago, and it is the Behringer UFX 1604. It is not only an analog mixer, but it's also a multi-tracking interface, which is amazing. So I can hook it up via USB to my computer and run up to 16 multi-tracks, and it does the job. So eventually, if I want to get speakers like a PA system, then I can actually have band practice in my rehearsal space. And that's the best part, is that I can use it for different situations and have more control if I'm using it for like a more rehearsal live situation and also a recording situation. Definitely check that out. Behringer UFX 1604. Now the headphones that I've probably talked a lot in a lot of different videos are my Mi Audio M4s. I've been using them for well over 6 months now, and they haven't done me wrong. I've used them in professional situations and they're still kicking and doing the job, so. And of course, in my other video, this is my MacBook. It's a 2013 MacBook Pro that I got when I entered Berkeley. I use Logic Pro for my recording currently. I did actually used to use Pro Tools for recording, but Logic was just a lot quicker. And the only reason why I don't use Pro Tools is that whenever I finish recording and I have somewhere to be, or I need to go somewhere and get out, I could just unplug everything and I can close my laptop and take it home and everything will be fine. Whereas for Pro Tools, I've had issues where I would just pull out the cable by accident, and then the whole session will freak out, shut down, I'd lose my files, and that's not what I wanted. So the only reason why I use Logic Pro is literally just because I can unplug it and go home quickly and then edit it up real quick and then go. It just shortens the amount of time I have to take to get these videos out and get them done. Also, if we're talking drum heads, I use Remo drum heads, and it's on my kick as well. For snare drums, I usually go for the Remo Ambassador. For kick drums, I usually use the Power Stroke 3. For my toms, I usually use coated Ambassadors. And I'm also really curious about trying the Power Stroke 4s on all my toms. I think that'll be really sick. A little bit more dead, a little bit more muffled. So that's something I'm going to experiment with in the future. My kick pedal currently is the good old-fashioned Iron Cobra. And also, this is a PDP hi-hat stand, a 2-leg hi-hat stand. And it was honestly a cheap hi-hat stand, but I've had it for what, like 4 or 5 years now. So it's lasted me quite a while. And I don't take this one out on the road. I just literally have it here set up all the time. All right, next fun topic, microphones. So what I mainly use for my snares and my toms is the good old SM57s. If I had toms, I would use the SM57s. I'm also rocking a CAD D10, which is a very cheap, and it's actually a kick drum mic, and I've actually been using that for my floor tom. And also, inside my bass drum, I have a Beta 52 kick drum mic. These are my overheads, and they are the AKG P420s, and I have 2 of them set up. And then I also have a hi-hat mic tucked under here, which is just an old CAD condenser mic. It's very cheap. All the CAD stuff I got a super long time ago, like when I first started to record drums and stuff. And honestly, they're super cheap, but they do the job. They really do just do the job for whatever you'd really need them for. I think that's the best part about mics, is that typically you can get a good sound regardless of the quality of mics. Of course, like $10,000 mics are gonna sound great, but you can still get sounds out of cheap mics. Yeah, that's honestly what I'm using for my mic setup currently. Of course, I want to grow and expand that as time goes on, but this is what I'm working with currently. So as you can see from my lockout, I have a lot of different lights. And so this is like a very stereotypical work light that I actually got for free. This is a regular softbox, and I actually have another one that I want to set up, but it was literally only $50 for like 2 of these softboxes. I have these LED lights over here. I got a pair of 2 for a little bit over 100. And then I also have these really, really cheap lights that I got for like $10 for the pair on Amazon. And of course, each light is here just to fill up my face in different ways, like slap me on the side, hit the top of my head. And also these lights back here on the ground are just to sort of separate me from my background, because I can easily blend in with my background, especially because I like to wear dark clothes. And of course, the work light just provides just an overall light that just hits my face from the front and every other angle. All right, so here's my overhead rig, which is, I talked about this before, but it's basically just like a plastic C stand that goes up extremely high, and then I can run it up here, and I attached my camera. And this is my Canon T5i with the 10 to 18 millimeter Canon lens on it. And then I also have my headlights attached to that. And I use a lot of res to hold everything down. Yeah, I think that covers a lot of it. I also have this nice trusty fan because LA summers are hot. There is air conditioning in here, but I get sweaty. I like to, you know, I'm always moving, I'm always active, and I'm always doing stuff, so I like to have a fan whenever I get sweaty. You know, I gotta look my prettiest for social media. This is my cymbal case, if you can see it well enough. This is the SKB flight cymbal case, which I use for all my flying gigs. Make sure I keep my cymbals extremely safe when I travel. And also, just like my backing track rig that I showed you at home, but I actually have a Roland SPD SX sampling pad that I use for any electronics and samples that I want to trigger live. And I also have triggers for my drums, so I have a snare trigger and also a kick trigger if I ever need that as well. Also, another microphone that I have that I've definitely talked about before is the Zoom H4n. This is my go-to mic. It was my go-to mic for all of my cruise ship videos that I recorded live, and any live performance is usually recorded with this. So it really does do the job. All right, guys, so that just about wraps it up, and I'll leave it at that. All of the products that I mentioned will be in the description below. Yeah, my name is Dave Cole, and I play the drums, and I'll see you, my friends and fam, later.